Hello and welcome to Knock Off the Perch, a Manchester United podcast. I am Aruj and I'm usually joined by my co-host Dheeraj, who couldn't be available today. So it will be me covering the game against PAOK and also previewing the game against Leicester City in the Premier League. A decent midweek for us. We managed to win 2-0 against PAOK. The result might flatter United a little. It was a game where United didn't play that well, to be very honest, but we managed to get a 2-0 victory, which I think at the end of the day, given where we were in the Europa League, I think that's a big takeaway. It was an important game for us to win. It was a game against a relatively lower ranked opposition, and we had to get 3 points out of it, and we did. I want to start with the first half of the game. It was an extremely drab first half. We barely had any chances. We had 4 shots and we didn't create much out of it. I mean, we had expected goals of 0.27 as compared to PAOK who had 0.23. So all in all, both ways, it was a very drab game. And I think what it was lacking was that bit of intensity. It was lacking the entire United team sort of pulling together. It felt like, I don't know how true that is, but it almost felt like everybody's just waiting for the new manager to come in, discuss new ideas, throw them into the midst of new ideas and see how is it that they play out. It felt like everybody was waiting for it. But Ruud van Nistelrooy had been talking about how it is critical for United to focus on the 2 games at hand before we get into the international break and Europa League, especially given that we hadn't won so far in Europe yet this season. So it was a critical game, and after that first half, I felt that I couldn't figure out where that goal will come from. We had that maybe those minor sparks here and there. In fact, Amad was one even in the first half who seemed slightly bright. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy had a good halftime team talk and he was able to galvanize this team, because when we came out in the second half, we had a great start. It was in the first 2-3 minutes itself. We were able to create a few chances. We were much more attacking. The team was sort of coming through together in the opponent's half, and which is where I think we were creating chance after chance. And in the 50th minute, that beautiful ball from Bruno came near the far post, and the shortest man on the pitch, Amad Diallo, was in the right place, changed or tweaked the trajectory of his run at the right time, and was able to finish that beautifully with a header. So I think that was a top finish. And after that also United continued to get some chances. If you look at the entire picture of the second half, we managed to get 12 shots and we created an XG of 0.89. Overall, we had a better control, but sometimes the data might flatter us as well. If we look at POK's data from that second half, although they had only 3 shots, but they were able to create 1.1 XG, and it was primarily due to that one chance, I think, in the 63rd minute, if I'm not wrong, when their player was pretty much open and all he had to do was put it past Onana, but he flubbed his shot, put it right in front of Onana, and Onana made a decent save out of it. But it happened time and again, at least 2 to 3 times I can remember that United midfield was split open with a couple of passes, which has been United's problem in the past. And you don't expect that to happen against a team like PAOK at Old Trafford. So I think that was a big challenge. And I spoke about this in the previous pods as well, when we were looking at Leicester's game, for example. Although we scored 5 goals, we won by a goal difference of 3. But those 2 goals that Leicester got, and even otherwise, they were able to create a fair few chances where they managed to put a lot of pressure on United, and it was only a matter of maybe Onana pulling out a save. Even in this game, in the first half, he pulled out a great save, or the opponent attackers fluffing their lines to not be able to score, which is where I don't say that this was a positive performance. I think we just got the result in place, but this team overall needs major improvements. Ruud van Nistelrooy talked about the fact that right now he's not bringing in a lot of new ideas because he's there for 4 to 5 games. And it is important for him to drill down what has already been sort of discussed. So it is probably very iterative changes from what the Erik Ten Hag philosophy was. And which is where we are not seeing a lot of new things in place so far. Come 24th of November, when Amorim's United take center stage against Ipswich, we might expect a lot of new ideas. I don't know how much of that will happen, and we will discuss that in the due course of time. But as things stand, this United teams needs a lot of improvement. And we'll talk about the various aspects of the game. We will talk about the attack, the midfield, how they orchestrated the passing in this one, and how the defensive play by United was. If we talk about attack, the only name that I even need to discuss is Amad Diallo. I talked about the fact that how he single-handedly dragged United to a 2-0 win here. It was him in attack who was able to finish something, and I think that comes as a respite because the front four haven't really been finishing much. Over the last few weeks, it has been likes of Casemiro getting a goal here and there, likes of Eriksen getting a goal here and there. And maybe against lesser oppositions in the Carabao Cup, Garnacho will pop up with a couple of goals. So it's the front 3 or 4 that have been lacking that attacking finish. And this game came as a respite there because Amad Diallo had a expected goals or XG of 0.47 from the 5 shots that he had, and he was able to convert 2 of them. That was a brilliant change. And apart from that, there was nothing else really. I mean, the only other player who had a shot on target was Rasmus Højlund. And this was, I think, a ball that came in from the right. He was going toe-to-toe with the defender, and he able to got a shot in play, which is what I actually like about Rasmus Højlund, that he finds ways when the ball is fed to him. Now, the United coaching staff needs to figure out whether it is Rasmus Højlund who is not getting into the right positions enough, whether it is the midfield and the wingers who are not passing the ball and serving Højlund enough. But a big problem lies because if your central striker is not getting enough shots, that's a big challenge for United, and that, I think, in the due course of time needs to be solved for. Apart from that, Casemiro had 3 shots, 2 off target, 1 blocked. Garnacho, I think, had a very low-lying game. He wasn't his expressive best. I don't know whether it is some sort of input based on the past games that he needs to play the other attackers more, which I felt he was doing a little bit in the game. But overall, he had very limited impact. And I think Rashford and others had very limited to do. Rashford, in fact, towards the end, I think in the added time, he had a chance where he felt like he could score, but obviously it was not a chance which had high possibility of scoring. But in attack, it was Amad Diallo show all the way, and no other player could essentially come near him. But I think what facilitated that was the ball movement, the ball carrying forward. And Bruno, I think, had a good game. It almost feels like since Ruud van Nistelrooy has taken charge, now Bruno has had a couple of goals. He is creating more is what I'm feeling. I don't know whether it has to do completely with Erik ten Hag or not, but it almost feels like over the course of last 3 games, Bruno is starting to trudge back to his creative best. He is not there yet. I think it will still take some time maybe, and things might change with the new setup in a couple of games. But Bruno was brilliant this game. I can distinctly remember 3-4 big chances that he was able to create. He had 6 key passes, more than any other for United. His passing accuracy for a center attacking midfielder, and I am the one who constantly has been looking at Bruno Fernandes's passing accuracy and criticizing him. But this game at 80%, I think he did a decent job, because you can't expect a player like Bruno to have a 90% plus passing accuracy. So that was a good job done by him. Casemiro, I think, is continuing to sort of flourish in that slightly freer and forward midfielder sort of a role with Ugarte behind him. So he is doing well defensively. He is creating some of those chances in attack as well. So I am very happy with him. Garnacho, as I spoke about earlier, he had a bit of a game where he was, subdued. He sort of didn't express himself so much. The number of touches by him were relatively low. And this goes on to show that maybe there is, in the behind the scenes, there have been some sort of changes that have been brought forth. And because otherwise in some of the previous games, what we were doing is we were simply passing the ball to Garnacho pretty much every single time, and which is where he was getting involved a lot. In this game, he was subdued. And whenever he was involved, it was not like he was looking to shoot from wherever. He was trying to find his teammates, which was a relatively good sign. Now, talking about the overall defense, and I have spoken about more than enough about Mazraoui. He has been top notch for United game after game. I simply can't sort of get over the fact that we were able to get him for so cheap, a 12 million, 13 million deal for a player like Mazraoui, who is what, 26, 27 at this point in time. So I think we can have good next 4 or 5 years out of him if we use him well, if we utilize him well. He had highest number of defensive actions. He wasn't dribbled past even once. He was brilliant. The only thing that I felt with that team was Mazraoui, I think, could have played from the left because Diallo clearly, I think, is somebody who is not able to express himself that well at the left back position. Right back, I think defensively he does well. He doesn't make so many mistakes and is able to do well in the right back position or towards the right wing. When maybe the right winger is cutting inwards, he is able to overlap and do well. He's not able to do so much of that from the left back position. Maybe he's coming into the midfield, and which is where the entire thought process is, that he can add numbers in the midfield and when he inverts. But the Diego Dallo at left back maybe is okay for a game or so in between when you don't have the right players. But knowing the fact that Mazraoui can play left back, I think we just need to make tweaks and ensure we are not making those mistakes. With regard to the centre backs, I think Evans and Lindelof both had a solid game. Evans, I felt, was more assured. But I think it almost became very evident that they haven't been playing so much under playing conditions together or otherwise as well. Given the fact that there were times when they were not at the right spot, they were not covering for Diego Dallo's mistakes, so to say, that have been happening, which Licha Martinez does relatively better. So, which is where we saw where a couple of times the opponents' attackers were at open position and they had a very easy chance to finish. So I think Evans and Lindelof, although mostly solid, but I think they weren't at their best, and which is where some of their defensive positioning, in my opinion, was questionable. But all in all, Mazraoui continues to steal the limelight when it comes to being the main player for United at this stage. He's doing well defensively. He continues to support the team in progressing the ball and supplying it to our forwards as well. That brings us to what the state of play is in the Europa League now. United jumped from the 21st spot to the 15th spot now and have 6 points from 4 games with a goal difference of +2. So finally, we have a positive goal difference in a competition. So that is a welcome change. And if we look at the table, the top 8 is starting to now differentiate itself from the rest of the field. And the top 8 team, FCSB, who United has to play in the upcoming games, they are at 9 points. So United currently is 3 points off the top 8 spot, where if we finish top 8, we qualify straight to the round of 16. Anywhere between 9th and 24th, we will go into a playoff game from this group itself. And for example, if we finish 9th, we'll play the 24th placed opposition. If we were to go by the current table, I think 15th place would play the 18th place team. So if this table was to sort of continue by the end of season, United will end up facing Besiktas, which won't be an easy game. So I think it's best, and given the number of games we have, hopefully we are able to go deep in the Carabao Cup, in the FA Cup as well. And that will mean we will have a lot of games, and just adding 2 more games is if it is avoidable, why not? So I think we need to try for the top 8, but it will not be an easy job. We have Bodo Glimt, Victoria Pleasant, Rangers and FCSB to face in our 4 games. Now, from what I feel, the 2 relatively difficult fixtures against Bodo Glimt and Rangers are at home for United. So we'll definitely have the home advantage, and if we are able to win those 2 games, or at least get 4 points of those 2 games, I think it will be critical for us to get those 4 points. That will take us to probably 10 or 12 points, hopefully 12, but at least 10 points given how United's form is. I'm not counting on 2-on-2 victories there. And then we play Victoria Pleasant, who are playing in the Czech First League, and they're currently second in their own league. Here also they have been doing relatively okay. They are placed 16th, and they also have 6 points from 4 games. So I think that will be a game that United should win. So that will take us to 13 points from 7 games, and then it will be about state of the entire table how it is. But FCSB away, then it's a game where I think which will decide if we are able to qualify top 8 or not. They are currently 3 points ahead of us. And I'm sure, given they've already got 9 points, they will be in the mix. And I think United against FCSB could be a game where one of them could be going. So I know it is away for United will not be easy, and this team has sort of crumbled under pressure when playing away games. But that will be a critical game. So those will be the games to look out for. But if we are able to win our 2 home games and beat Victoria Pleasant as well, that only takes us to 15 points. So then the table becomes much simpler. So it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see if we are able to qualify top 8 or not. And Amorim has been doing really well in the European competitions with Sporting Lisbon. I think they are second in the Champions League table at this point in time. They just beat City 4-1. So if Amorim is able to run some of his magic with this team in Europa League as well, it should be a good one, and we might just qualify for the round of 16 straight away. Great. So that was it from the review of the PAOK game. Next, we will be moving to the game against Leicester City, game at Old Trafford. At this stage, to be very honest, every game is a big game for United, given the fact where we are in the league. It is about time we step up into those top 6, top 4 contention. We need to be in that space where, slowly we are able to challenge for those spots. And before we get into some of those details, the big question ahead of this game is that this is obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy's last game in charge as the interim head coach. So far, we have won 2 under him. We have drawn 1, and we haven't lost anyone. And hopefully, we wouldn't lose this one as well. The big question, obviously, is does he continue as an assistant under Amorim? A lot of players have come out and spoken about the fact that they get along really well with Ruud. In his avatar as the assistant coach, he connected really well with the players. He's pretty much all the time on the pitch when the trainings are happening. So the players definitely like him. I would believe that the Ineos hierarchy also likes him. The United management likes him because they just got him on board. But I think the potential challenge that could lie in this entire situation is how does Amorim look at this? Amorim is obviously getting his entire backroom staff with him. So there are assistant coaches, sports scientists that are coming in with him. Is there space for a player? Is there space for a coach like Ruud van Nistelrooy to be there, given that Ruud has his aura about him? He is a United legend. He himself has coached in the Eredivisie and done decently okay. So it sort of begs the question, will Amorim be comfortable with Ruud in his backroom staff? I do not have the answer, but if I were to believe certain reports, etc., it seems unlikely that Ruud will continue. And in fact, just a while back, I was reading the pre-match program that has been created, and Ruud has spoken about the fact that, he's urging the fans to get behind Amorim as the new manager. And he's spoken about, how he's thankful for the fans who have accepted him and, have got really behind him. It almost gives that farewell-esque vibe to it. But I just hope, looking at this game, we are able to first get a win. Ruud has a win under his belt in the Premier League as well, and he finishes with 3 wins and draws as the interim head coach. And then I would love to see him in the as well, but time will tell. And probably Amorim, Ineos and Ruud will have some discussions to figure that out. It will be important for United to have some bit of continuity also. I'm pretty sure that rest of the coaching staff, Hake definitely might not continue, but Ruud van Nistelrooy is something that is up in the air. Talking about Amorim and the team that he could get in, I think one thing I definitely wanted to speak about before I got into the details of this game was we were starting to get some of the players back from their injury issues. We already saw in the game against PAOK, Christian Eriksen got 30 odd minutes, Mount got a few minutes, Anthony was on the bench although he didn't play. So all those are back. Malaysia, we know is back in group training, and Root spoke about the fact that he'll probably need some match time with the under 21 or the under 19 team to uh, get back into the groove of playing games. Lenny Euro is back on the pitch, so and he will not be going for the international duty. So I expect Amorim to start doing some work with them, and so is Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw also recently came back. Ruud van Nistelrooy in the recent press conference also spoke about Menu. Menu is also progressing well. So I would assume that after international break, even he would be available. So that is pretty much the entire squad. So I'm glad that Amorim will be joining in with the entire team in. So I think that will be a critical play for us, that he's able to get the entire team into play. Now, talking about this game, if we look at the current Premier League table, United are 13th with 12 points and Leicester City are 15th with 10 points. So there is not much between the two teams. But let's be honest, I mean, United haven't played to their potential so far. We have scored only 9 goals in the 10 games and conceded 12. This is not what Manchester United is, and we have had our troubles in the past. And hopefully, this is a game where we are able to carry on from the 5-2 victory. Although this will be a different Leicester team that plays, I think Steve Cooper pretty much played a second strung team against United in the Carabao Cup. But this will be their first 11. The likes of Vardy, likes of Bonuate, Harry Winks, all of them should be back. And which is where it will not be an easy game. But obviously, I think it's not a game of equals. You know, United are, I believe, based on the quality of the team, that we have head and shoulders above Leicester. And which is where, since the game is at Old Trafford, we will need to make that count. Leicester are not going to be an easy opposition. They are a team that has a knack of creating issues. Even when they went to Arsenal away, they trailed 2-0 at halftime, but they were able to come back to make it 2-2. It was only in the additional time that they ended up conceding 2 goals and lost that game 4-2. So it is not going to be a walk in the park for United. Even though currently Leicester are 15th in the table, they have scored 14 goals in 10 games, which is really good. They have also conceded 18 games. So we know for a fact that United will get their chances. How much are we able to capitalize on that is something that will become critical. Talking a little more about Leicester's form and how they have been. In the Premier League, last few games against Ipswich, they had a draw. And again, it required a added time goal from Jordan Ayew to grab that draw for them. They pretty much controlled a lot of that game, but it was, I think, in the second half when they conceded the goal to Davis. And after that, it was all Leicester's attack sort of trying to overcome. Ipswich got a red card as well. But Leicester only managed a 1-1 draw there. Apart from that, in the Premier League, they lost to Forest at home. They were able to defeat Southampton away, so that was a good victory for them. And they were also able to defeat Bournemouth at home. So they had those 2 wins back to back, which was very important for them and has sort of propelled them in the league table so far. But that game also, they were, in my opinion, they were the second best team. And Bournemouth, they should count it as a big, big win for them, given the fact that Bournemouth has troubled Arsenal and City after that. And about the Arsenal game, I spoke about how they were able to challenge the Arsenal team there, but didn't manage to get anything out of it. All this said, while some of the data points on the forefront might show that, Leicester has it in them to be that comfortably mid-table team. But if we were to go deeper into the data, if we were able to look at how much XG they've created and how much XG they've conceded, I think in the longer run, and as we go towards mid to end of the Premier League, I think they will be in the battle for relegation unless they're able to step up from how they've been playing. So far, they're 19th for XG conceded. So they're pretty much the poorest teams, one of the poorest teams in the Premier League in terms of conceding chances, and which is where I think United will really need to make it count. We have been doing well in terms of chance creation. Here we have Leicester, who give away a lot of chances. All it needs is our attackers to finish their chances. So I think that will be important. And even in terms of XG created, they're 17th on the table. So they're not doing great in terms of XG creation as well. They're pretty much in that mix of, fighting with the relegation battlers there. So while it might look like Leicester can push for and become a mid-table team, I think it will be very critical for United to hold their own and show Leicester their place in this particular game. All right, now talking about some of the big key battles that I believe will be critical in this game and where the game could be won or lost. The first thing that comes through for me is how Leicester play, and they have been trying to build up from the back in a lot of games. Now, this will be different, especially against United. But whenever they get a chance, even against Arsenal, which is the most comparable game if we look at it, they went away to play Arsenal, they're coming to play away at United. They were playing long balls as well, but they were also trying to build from the back in a lot of cases. And they were trying to, in fact, do a lot of that against Ipswich when they were away to them, but they are more like for like opposition for them. So, maybe they decided to go a little more proactive, little more modern football there. But whenever Leicester tries to do it, I think the United press against it is going to be very, very critical. Typically, Leicester would push one of their fullbacks. In a lot of cases, I've seen that being the right back, whether it is Pereira or whether it is Justin moving forward and the left back sort of joining the centre backs and building from the back. And they've built a lot through the centre. So the likes of Bruno, Casemiro, Ericsson or Ugarte who is playing and even the coordinated press between Højlund and Bruno will become very critical there. And they also have a tendency to concede goals when they are trying to build from the back and trying to be very progressive about it. There are opportunities to latch onto certain mistakes as well, and that will be very critical for us. So that will be something that we should be able to tackle. The next big battle, I think, in this one is going to be Vardy versus United centre backs. We have seen time and again, and that play hasn't really changed much for Vardy over the years. He still backs his speed against the Premier League centre backs. The Leicester team will be building through the centre, and the likes of Harry Winks or Buonate will get the ball, and Vardy will be just playing along with the centre backs of the opposition, and they will try to find a through ball, and Vardy will back his speed to outrun the centre backs and be through on goal and then get a shot on target, and his finishing is very good still. So I think most likely Licha and De Ligt should be United centre-back partnership, and Vardy tends to do this going to get the through ball a lot on the right. So I think his right. So I think Licha Martinez's game presence will be very, very important as we take on Leicester City in this one. So I think that will be the second battle. And the third one, I think this is a big, big challenge for United. We have been creating a lot of chances. It's just that we have not been able to finish those. And on the other end, Leicester's goalkeeper Hermansen has been doing really well in saving the chances. He currently has 42 saves in the Premier League, which is second highest behind Brentford's Flecken. So this battle is also going to be very important because I'm sure we will at least get 10 to 12 shots in this game. Probably 7 or 8 of them will be on target. It's not a big deal if Hermansen is able to save most of those. So it will be about how prolific United attackers can be in finishing the chances they get. So hopefully Amad gets to start this one. He was great in finishing the previous game. So him, Højlund and whoever is playing the left wing, whether it is Rashford or whether it is Garnacho, they're able to finish their chances. I think that is going to be very, very important. So I think that is where the game could be won or lost. Up next, I will be talking about the predicted 11, which I believe will be something that United could be starting with. In defense, I think the back five pretty much retains itself from the previous Premier League game. De Ligt and Martinez should come back as centre backs. They had their rest in the midweek. Diallo and Mazraoui should continue to start as fullbacks. However, I would play Mazraoui on the left back and Diallo on the right. Otherwise, they are players that could exploit Diallo's lack of control on that left back position. So I think it will be important. This is more of a wish. I'm not sure what is it that the United coaching staff is picking on in terms of deciding who plays left back and right back in each of the games. But I just hope it's Mazraoui in this one. And when it comes to midfield, I think Casemiro has been in a good vein of form. He should continue to play this one as well. I would rest Ugarte or maybe drop. I would call it dropping Ugarte for this one. I think in the game against Chelsea, he wasn't really up to it. And I think it's in the Premier League that he really requires a step up. So it will take him some time, and he has had 2 games in a row. Probably he could come in as a sub. And Eriksen, who played 30 minutes, if he's fit enough, he should play this one. I think that becomes a critical pivot for us, where it's the old trusted pivot of Casemiro, Eriksen. And in the number 10 spot, undisputed player is Bruno. I think Bruno will continue to start that one. Although Mount is fit now, I don't see Mount starting this one in any of the positions. But he could again come back on the bench. And when we talk about attack, I spoke about the fact that Amad needs to start this one. He had a great game in the Europa League. He was literally our best player on the pitch. He needs to start this game. Now, there were slight concerns about his fitness. Ruud van Nistelrooy talked about it in the presser as well. And he mentioned that hopefully he will be fine and he will be able to play. So there is that slight concern. Now, I hope that is not a big challenge and he's able to start. On the left wing, it's a toss-up between Rashford and Garnacho. The fact that Rashford was rested for the previous game, I think this is the game probably Garnacho could impact from the bench. So Rashford could be the one starting on the left wing this time. And I think the striker's position is pretty sorted. Højlund is head and shoulders above Zirkzee at this point in time. So Højlund should be starting this one. So that will be our predicted 11. Now, in terms of the predicted scoreline, I am hoping, and I predicted 2-0 win for United with goals from Højlund and Bruno, and both of them assisting each other. So I think that should be great for United in this one. Hopefully, we are able to keep a clean sheet and move on in the Premier League and go into Amorim era with 3 more points before he joins in and hopefully transforms this team. I think we all are really waiting for that. All right, then. This was it from the podcast. This time, it will help a lot if you share this with your friends, if you like it on whichever platform you're hearing this, and give us your feedback so that we can improve this further. And yes, as always, this is our perch. Let's knock him off. Until next time, stay united.